Today is Thursday, April 14th. We're talking about the arrest in the New York City subway attack, who police are saying tipped them off. And there are huge backups on the southern border, why the governor of Texas says they're necessary, even though they could mean more supply chain problems and higher grocery prices. Plus, the latest update to the mask mandate on planes, what to know about a baby formula shortage, and how Google plans to add thousands of new jobs in the U.S. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. So the U.S. is hoping to help Ukraine get a leg up on Russia by sending in more military aid and sharing more intelligence. The latest military aid package alone is worth $800 million. The Biden administration says it will include heavy artillery, radar, armored personnel carriers, drones, boats, helicopters, and more. With that, the U.S. has now given Ukraine about $2.6 billion in military assistance since Russia invaded. And then there's the decision to step up intelligence sharing. The U.S. is hoping the extra intelligence can help Ukraine figure out how exactly the Russian military plans to attack and how the Ukrainians should respond. That said, the U.S. will not be offering up any intelligence that could help Ukraine attack Russia on Russian territory. He was on the run for about 30 hours, but now New York police say they've caught the man who attacked passengers on a Brooklyn subway train. The suspect was arrested yesterday, and he now faces a federal terrorism charge. It's the same man who, at this time yesterday, was considered a person of interest. Well, several news outlets cite police sources who say the tip that ended up leading police to him actually came from the suspect himself. He apparently called and told officers to come get him. Although now a few more people, like a security camera technician, business owner, and street artist, all claim they're the ones who alerted police to exactly where he was. And one of those people was even trending on social media since he gave an impromptu press conference about the whole thing. Either way, investigators still don't know exactly what motivated the suspect to shoot 10 people on the subway. But in the past, this man has posted videos on YouTube about racism and violence in the U.S. and his struggles with mental health care in New York City. The suspect is due in court for his first hearing today, and if found guilty, he could spend the rest of his life in prison. Hundreds of protesters have been out calling for justice following a deadly shooting at the hands of a police officer. Yesterday, police in Grand Rapids, Michigan, released videos that show what happened. A white officer shot and killed a 26-year-old black man during a traffic stop. The officer first pulled over Patrick Loyola for having license plates that did not match his car. But after the officer asked for a driver's license, Loyola ran away. The officer ran after him and tackled him in a nearby lawn. In the videos, you can see that moments before the shooting, the officer was wrestling with Loyola, apparently for control of the officer's stun gun. Then, as the officer was lying on Loyola's back, he shot him in the back of the head. So far, that officer has not said anything publicly about what had happened. He is now on paid leave while he's under investigation, and for now, he has not been charged with a crime. The police chief is calling the shooting a tragedy, but will not say much else about it. Protesters are now demanding the officer be arrested and fired from the police department, and more protests are planned for today. Some of the world's busiest trade bridges are severely backed up or even shut down because of a new order by the Texas governor. Governor Greg Abbott changed things up because he said the Biden administration was not doing enough to secure the U.S.-Mexico border. He ordered that commercial trucks from Mexico go through extra inspections along the 1,200-mile border with Texas. The governor says these extra steps are needed to curb human trafficking and the flow of drugs into the U.S. The thing is, though, truckers say it now takes an hour to go through each truck. And this week, that's left drivers waiting more than 36 hours to cross in some places, slowing down the supply chain and destroying several loads of fresh produce. Officials say since the extra inspections began, cross-border traffic has dropped to a third of normal levels. Trade groups have said it will cause more shortages and higher prices at grocery stores. Governor Abbott has said he's looking to find another way, though. Already, he decided to stop the extra Texas inspections at one bridge because he made an agreement with the governor in Mexico to have Mexican police do the inspections instead. But Abbott says the new policy will stay in place on all the other bridges unless more Mexico leaders reach agreements with him over security. So far, at least, the extra inspections that started last week have not found any drugs or immigrants. By the way, that's not the only controversial step Governor Abbott has taken on the border. To show his frustration, he also sent some people crossing into Texas from Mexico on charter buses and charter flights to the steps of the U.S. Capitol in Washington. The first busload from Texas arrived in D.C. yesterday. A second bus is already on the way. Severe weather that's been working its way across the country is now headed for the entire east coast of the U.S. Today, thunderstorms could pop up anywhere from Florida to New England. Some places could see strong winds that could do damage, as well as heavy rain and hail. But the weather is not expected to be anywhere near as bad as it was in the middle of the country this week. Tornadoes tore through towns from Texas to Iowa the last couple of days. On the East Coast today, forecasters warn severe weather could pop up suddenly, so people should keep an eye out for changing weather. And one other thing to keep in mind, today's storms are going through a lot of travel hubs like New York City, Washington, D.C., Charlotte, North Carolina, and Atlanta, Georgia. So there could be more delays today than usual. More news is still ahead, but first, let's take a quick break to thank our sponsor. So if you've been listening for a while, then you know I'm a first-time mom, and as parents, we are forced to learn fast. And the latest thing I've learned is that my baby and I both love Pampers Cruisers 360 Fit diapers. Now that I have an older baby, he is super active, and Pampers Cruisers 360 Fit is Pampers' best fit and protection for an active baby. So unlike regular taped diapers, the 360 gap-free fit stretches around my baby's waist so it doesn't gap on his back. My baby can now crawl around and continue learning how to walk and climb leak-free. And the material feels super soft and comfortable. I can tell my baby actually loves it because he's finally stopped tugging at his diaper. Also, in case you didn't know, Pampers is the #1 pediatrician-recommended brand. So buy in-store. You can look for the Pampers Cruisers 360 Fit if you want the type I've been talking about. And don't forget to download the Pampers Club app today to start earning rewards with every diapers and wipes purchase. Well, if you plan to travel anytime soon, you'll need to keep a mask handy. Once again, U.S. health officials extended the mask mandate for most transportation, this time by another 2 weeks. The CDC says it needs that time to look into a recent rise in COVID-19 cases. So until at least May 3rd, masks are going to stay mandatory on airplanes, airports, trains, train stations, buses, ships, subways, taxis, and more. But this isn't the most popular decision. Industry groups and Republican lawmakers want the mandate to end immediately. Many say it makes no sense to require masks for travel when they're not mandated at most restaurants, bars, or crowded sports facilities. Separately, the Biden administration also just renewed the government's public health emergency for COVID-19. That means millions of Americans can keep getting free COVID-19 tests, vaccines, and treatments for at least 3 more months. Heads up, parents, there's a shortage of baby formula right now. And it's getting to the point that some stores are limiting how much formula you can buy at once. Big national chains like Target, Walmart, Walgreens, and CVS are said to be only allowing parents to buy 3 to 5 formula products per transaction. Some parents are having to shop around or make multiple trips to get the formula they need. Many are also running into empty shelves or out-of-stock messages online. And keep in mind, baby formula is considered the only viable substitute for breast milk. The shortage has also led to the cost of formula going up too. So why is this happening? Well, there were already some spotty shortages last year due to supply chain issues related to the pandemic, as many industries have dealt with. But then earlier this year, a recall made things worse. Abbott Laboratories is one of the biggest manufacturers, and it recalled powdered formula made at a Michigan plant. Well, now formula manufacturers say they're ramping up production to try and meet families' needs as fast as possible. Google plans to invest $9.5 billion in the U.S., creating at least 12,000 new full-time jobs, all by the end of this year. The internet search giant also says the investment will lead to thousands more jobs for its local suppliers, partners, and communities. The money will go into American offices and data centers in several states, including Nevada, Nebraska, and Virginia. Google is also opening a new office in Atlanta, Georgia this year. Google CEO Sundar Pichai wrote in a blog post that it might seem counterintuitive to increase investments in physical offices as workers embrace more flexibility, but he says it'll make for better products, employee quality of life, and stronger communities. What was once IMDb TV will now be called Amazon FreeV. The streaming video service was actually launched back in 2019, but hasn't been quite as prominent as other streaming options, including Amazon's own Prime Video. Still, Amazon says IMDb TV has been growing, and the company hopes the new name, Amazon FreeV, will make it that much more clear to viewers what makes it stand out. That it's free, supported by ads instead of subscription fees. Along with the name change, Amazon says it plans to grow its slate of original programming by 70% by the end of the year. The name change will officially happen on April 27th. Some classic songs, albums, and recordings are getting preserved for future generations. The Library of Congress picked 25 new additions to be inducted into the National Recording Registry. It means they're considered important contributions to American culture and history. They include Queen's Bohemian Rhapsody, Ricky Martin's Livin' La Vida Loca, and debut albums from Alicia Keys and the Wu-Tang Clan. But it's not just music getting preserved. There are also recordings, like public radio station WNYC's broadcast from September 11, 2001, the day of the terror attacks. The Library of Congress got more than 1,000 nominations, but it says each one of the 25 was chosen for their, quote, importance in the nation's recorded sound heritage. Well, that's it for the main news today, so now it's time for Thing to Know Thursday. But first, a quick word from our sponsor. News has to travel fast, but hiring often takes longer than expected. In 2022, don't let the search for the best candidates slow down your growth. Find quality candidates fast with Indeed. If you're hiring, you need Indeed, because Indeed is the hiring partner where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Instead of spending hours on multiple job sites hoping to find candidates with the right skills, you need one powerful hiring partner that can help you do it all. And Indeed is the only job site where you're guaranteed to find quality applications that meet your must-have requirements, or else you don't pay. I love that Indeed also gives you so many tools to work with, including 135 assessment tests. Start hiring right now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/newsworthy. Offer valid through April 30th. Go to Indeed.com/newsworthy to claim your $75 credit before April 30th. Indeed.com/newsworthy. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Now back to Thing to Know Thursday. The world's biggest tech companies are teaming up in hopes of sucking greenhouse gases out of the air. Google's parent company Alphabet, Facebook's parent company Meta, online payments company Stripe, and more made a nearly $1 billion commitment this week. Together, they invested in a new company called Frontier. It plans to spend $925 million on technology that can pull heat-trapping carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere. That's way more than any other company has ever spent on that kind of technology, like 60 times more. But the technology is expensive, and it still has a long way to go. So for now, the idea is the tech giants will pool their money together to pay different companies to remove carbon in their own ways. So this means in many cases, Frontier will be paying startups to just test their ideas and get the technology up and running. But even if everything goes well, experts say removing carbon won't solve climate change by itself. You may remember earlier this month, the United Nations put out a landmark report about the steps that need to be taken to rein in global warming. The carbon removal technology was just one of those steps. All right, thank you so much for listening today. We'll be back with much more news to know tomorrow. Until then, have a great day.